Duke is a fan favorite, a legend, and a man on a mission to defend his U.S. Open title. But nobody's been better lately than Chris Barnes, a win, and he's your Player of the Year. A major and Player of the Year honors up for grabs next at the U.S. Open. Welcome to the most grueling and prestigious stop on the PBA Tour. It is the 66th edition of the Lumber Liquidators U.S. Open. Today, the season concludes, but much remains unresolved, including Player of the Year honors, and we welcome you to a sold-out Brunswick zone. Carolier here in North Brunswick, New Jersey. I'm Rob Stone. Glad you're here with us, and what a fitting way to conclude this historical 50th season on the PBA Tour than with a U.S. Open that is rich in storylines and rooting interest. Of our 5 finalists, 2 don't even bowl on the tour anymore, and 2 could walk away with not only that $100,000 winner's check and 3-year exemption, but also Player of the Year honors. Now, coming into the week, the only way that Wes Malott would not be Player of the Year would be if he did not make the show and if Norm Duke or Chris Barnes won it all. Wes finished 18th. Barnes is your 3 seed. Defending champ Norm Duke needs just 1 win to earn his 33rd career title and 3rd Player of the Year honor. And the show begins with one of those, what great story do I cheer for more? 5 seed Richie Wolfe has never won a title, left the tour in 07. On a whim, he entered the tournament, now 4 wins away from a major. He'll face fan favorite, former pro, Amleto, Monacelli, 2-time Player of the Year. 3 seed Chris Barnes on a tear. He's won 2 of the last 3 tournaments and can defend his Player of the Year title with a win today. Lefty Mike Scroggins, your 2 seed. This is 6th TV appearance of the season. And Norm Duke, just 1 win away from his 7th major title, and he's standing by with our Randy Peterson.
Well, Rob, it was just a little over a year ago on this very lane, lane 8, that this man right here made the 2-4-5-8, the bucket, to capture his first ever United States Open title. Norm, describe what it feels like to be back in this setting.
Well, I'm nervous. I'm scared to death, to tell you the truth. And when I look back at that bucket, I can't even think about it for very long because it gets me all jittery inside and stuff. But that was a big, big shot for me.
With everything on the line today, Norm, the $100,000, defending your crown here. Also, if you win that 1 title match, you will be, again, Player of the Year for a 3rd time. What does that do to the level of pressure today?
Well, I could let it bother me, but the thing to do is to eliminate everything and concentrate on one task. That is to win the U.S. Open. I've been here, and I know what it takes, and that's kind of why I'm scared to death.
Well, thanks, Norm, and good luck. Rob Stone, Norm Duke, 1 win away, a lot riding on the line. Mr. Stone, you now have the time.
Duke will take a seat and soak in our all-underdog opening match. Richard Wolfe was convinced to bowl this week by his boss back in Culpeper, Virginia. He'll have to get by Monachelli.
The Lumber Liquidators PBA Tour on ESPN is brought to you by Denny's, where America's favorite breakfast is now available to go.
We welcome you back to ESPN's continuing coverage of the 66th Lumber Liquidators U.S. Open. Stepladder tournament format this week, and we begin with Richard Wolfe taking on Amleto Monacelli. And let me tell you, once you learn how to say Amleto's full name, it's downright enjoyable to say.
It just kind of rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Monachelli is great. Sounds like a wonderful wine. But we begin with a wonderful story. Richard Wolfe, and before he gets up, A, we want to wish him happy birthday, number 42 today. And number 2, a quick shout out to the good folks down at the Mountain Run Bowling Center in Culpeper, Virginia. Big gathering there to watch the man who works there, Richard Wolfe, the lefty, stepping up. Leads the 7. 0 Lumber Liquidator PBA Tour titles for the 42-year-old from Vienna, Virginia.
And right now, I guarantee you, Richie's hyperventilating.
I think I was hyperventilating a bit just for him. He was so calm through the week, said really no nerves. I was just out here having fun. It was basically like a reunion tour for him. It's nice to get that single pin spare out of the way. Sit down, breathe, and enjoy. Yeah, you can kind of see the... There it was. And here's your other wonderful story. I mean, just so many great storylines today. Amleto Monacelli from Venezuela, 47-year-old, 19 tour titles, 1 major.
This guy's a Hall of Famer, Rob, and a 2-time Player of the Year out here. And boy, when he needed it most last night, he bowled his biggest game of the night. It looked like he was going to lose his grasp on the telecast. He shoots 278 against Brad Angelo in position rounds to secure his spot on national television.
And here's Monachelli on why this tournament is on his bucket list.
The challenge of the lane condition, the amount of bowlers that bowl on it, and you know, making all the way through here, you know, means a lot to me. And also it's one of the tournaments that I always had in mind that I wanted to have as in my achievements.
There's our first strike. Monacelli left the tour. Essentially, he had a hip injury in 06-07. Only bowled 9 events that season and lost his exemption and has really curtailed on the amount of bowling he has done. He told us about the last 10 days before the U.S. Open, 20 games he bowled before coming in here, and they were all in Venezuela.
And hard to believe he's 47 years of age. I mean, this guy's a stud. Just a massive workout routine, running, great physical shape on little Monacelli.
Wolfe gets the 10 to kick and a strike of his own, and Wolfe this week was somehow stress-free, but today, different story.
This experience is where it all starts to reality setting in. Bowling against 4 great bowlers and competing against 420 other terrific players, it's starting. I'm nervous. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's going to happen. The first couple of shots, as they would say, pry it off your hand. I have no idea.
How can you not love that honesty?
And he's just one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Richie does have some U.S. Open experience, but it was back in 1991.
Finished 3rd there. His best finish at a major. Yikes.
And that's what makes the U.S. Open so difficult. Any little mistake, and you just pay the price. And this is the full price. There's no discount when you leave the Big 4.
Open frame 8 in the 3rd.
We'll see our CATS numbers throughout the telecast. CATS, the computer-aided tracking system provided to us today by the Kegel Training Center.
Missing the head pin right, and with a victory today, not only do you get a $100,000 payday, but also 3-year exemption. And talked to both players about that, and Monachelli said, you know, I win it, I'm back. I'm back here full time. And for Wolfe, he's like, look, I haven't even thought about that yet. You know, I got to get back to work on Monday. And, you know, I had plans to be golfing today on my birthday, not bowling in New Jersey. Wow, robbed.
Boy, and I think that's a mistake by Amleto because he loses the count. Instead of going for the washout and maybe getting 9, he gets 7 out. And now he actually trails after Rich Wolfe left that bucket. And again, the occurring theme throughout this telecast is going to be how difficult the oil pattern is. And just taking that last shot that Amleto threw, remember he left a weak 10 in the first frame. That shot was less than a board wide of target, and he misses the head pin.
A nice rebound for Monachelli, and that's kind of been his game all week. Was in a huge rut yesterday, was threatening to fall out of the top 5 in a place in the TV show, but he told us, you know, I never panicked. I was never worried. I didn't make any drastic changes. I just said, look, things are tough out here.
I'm going to deal with it, and I'm going to get it figured out. And he bounced back with a 278 in the last game, in a game that he had to win to make the show. Wolfe in the fourth.
His second strike.
Well, Richie has always had great talent, and none of the players out here have ever doubted that. But, you know, in talking with him last night, he said that he used to bowl out here with a tremendous amount of anxiety and high expectations, and I think it destroyed him mentally. And coming into this week, I mean, he had no expectations. He just wanted to see a few friends, have a good week, maybe cash and go back to work. And I think that's the reason why he was just so successful this week.
Back-to-back jacks.
He had a clean plate this week, Rob, and he didn't get in his own way.
Had nothing hanging over his head. No, living or dying on the tour. I don't need this check. I don't need the stress. It's just, it was almost like a reunion tour for him. He said, coming out here, good to see some old faces. Hey, if I get some kind of check, bonus.
I mean, you see it time and time again. Anytime a player goes light or wide washout, the tendency is to pull the next shot. That's exactly what Amleto did on the right lane.
Picks up that spare. I want to remind you the PBA, in conjunction with Luby Publishing, has produced a wonderful collector's edition book featuring the 50 greatest bowlers in PBA history. The book uses pictures and feature stories. Great way to revisit the careers and relive the moments that made these players legendary. To order, just head on over to PBA.com. Click on the show, or rather the shop tab today. Heavy, but not punished too badly on that one.
Oh, absolutely not. You go through the nose, you'll take 9 spare anytime and you go quietly. This could have been, well, the 310 was there for a moment. The 10-pin fell late, but it could have been a lot worse.
And this is about what we figured for the U.S. Open. Every toss is going to be a challenge. You know, some go to the beach, others go to the mountains, and some, like Richie Wolfe, spend their vacations at a bowling center. We'll explain next. You know what? Maybe a travel agent could get him a little bit less noisy, more relaxing vacation next time.
Welcome you back to New Jersey. Tight match one here between Amleto Monachelli and Richie Wolfe. And speaking of tight, the oil pattern, a little tight, a little challenging this week.
Yeah, it really was. And when you look at the graphic, I mean, just look how flat it is. There's no peaks or valleys, and it's a 40-foot flat pattern, but also what makes it difficult this week is you have oil carrying down the lane, the front end starting to get dry, which makes it extremely difficult to get to the break point on a consistent basis. We only had 300 games this week. Remember, there was 415 players that started this event. One of those 300 games bowled by Richie Wolfe.
And Richie Wolfe steps up now to conclude the 6th frame. He is working off of back-to-back strikes, 3 total for the match for Wolfe.
Gets the turkey to drop. And the birthday boy on the verge of a ham bone.
What a huge break, working on a double. Really putting the pressure on Monachelli right now. And look at that great pin carry. Richie Wolfe, one of the best forms you'll ever see. For years, we would watch this man throw it out here and just wonder, when is this guy going to win a title? It never happened for him. Maybe today is his day.
Open frame 8 in the 3rd. Since then, nothing but strikes.
It's okay, though. Makeable spare, a little aggressive. maybe just a shade wide of target.
Poopy pants.
Richie telling us yesterday, you know, I wanted a break. I wanted a vacation. Things were really busy back at the Mountain Run Bowling Center. You know, he's taking out garbage. He's getting people in line, having problems with the ball return. So his boss came and said, you know what, why don't you go up to New Jersey and bowl? He said, I don't know, I haven't practiced, Rob. Nah. He really encouraged him. Girlfriend jumped on the bandwagon, too. He's like, you know what, yeah, I'll go up. I'll go vacation up there, see some old friends, hope for a check. And slowly, he kind of just kept plugging along. And here he is as the 5 seed with the lead here in match 1.
Late kick for the strike.
Yeah, when they're tough, the trick 2 is your best friend. Take a look at some of our Cats numbers. And again, when you talk about U.S. Open oil patterns, it's all about accuracy. You can see Amleto Monachelli, 12th board, 11-7, 11-1, 11-1, 12-3, 12-2. I mean, that is solid professional stuff right there. And that's the only way you survive at the U.S. Open.
Drop and give me 10, his first pair of strikes.
And as he used to say when he was a full-time player out here, give it to me one time. Hey, Richie Wolfe gets a break catching a light wall shot. Little Monachelli says, you know what, Richie Wolfe, I got a little bit of that here too, buddy.
Wolfe responds with the strike. He hasn't been bowling under the lights in almost 10 years. November of 1999, Bay City, Michigan, the last time he was on television.
And he actually beat Amleto Monachelli on that telecast, 236, 235. Just a beautiful game, beautiful form. Boy, if you ever wanted to model your game, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, take a look at this form. Beautiful balance at the foul line, steady head, great follow-through. This guy is the real deal when it comes to physical talent.
Oh, baby! Oh, a good shot. Do it good.
Boy, he liked that one immediately.
Good shot.
Well, he liked immediately and almost went Brooklyn on him.
Oh, baby! Oh, a good shot. Do it good.
Rob, you know how Richie talked about how nervous he was going to be and in his soundbite how nervous he is? That's gone now. He's got his legs underneath him. He's getting ready to get up into the 10th frame and possibly move on. However, Amleto Monachelli can still strike out to shoot 223 and shut out Richie Wolfe.
Monachelli down 11.
The hang over there, coñola, me lo puedo meter la mano.
I don't speak Spanish, but I don't think he was happy.
Yeah, you don't want to know what he said, but again, if you look at the numbers, that was the 11th board, but it was just going a little, the trajectory was going just a little bit further right than he wanted.
2-4-10.
And that couldn't have happened at a worse time for Amleto. Right now, the best Amleto can shoot 186. Rich Wolfe doesn't even need a mark in the 10th frame, just good count. He is going to advance. But what a week it's been for Amleto Monachelli. And you know, for a player to come out here when he's not a full-time player and make a show at a U.S. Open, he's got to have talent. You do not make the U.S. Open by chance. That's why he's a Hall of Famer. That's why he's won 19 titles. And quite honestly, Rob, in my opinion, he should still be out on this tour.
For those who've been wondering what he's been up to in his downtime, his family owns a 16-lane center. He's also part owner in a nightclub back in his hometown in Venezuela. gives a lot of lessons to the state team in his hometown, working with kids age 8 and up. And of course, he's out there running 30 to 40 miles a week, working those weights. Walks away with the strike, sits down with a 1.76.
I know he's disappointed, but again, he's got to be very proud of his efforts this week.
Slug just blew up in that one ball.
Richie Wolfe forced to make a ball change because the slug inside his thumb hole apparently disintegrated.
Was that smooth? What was that smooth?
It looks like he went to a ball that hooks a little bit more, and man, that looked really good.
Richard Wolfe, he told us to call him Richie, which I guess kind of goes with his whole perspective this week. It's laid back, it's loose, it's fun. If I'm still bowling on Sunday, great. This is gravy for him.
Oh, and Chris Barnes, watch out.
Hey, and that may have been the best thing that could have happened to Richie Wolfe, and having to go to a ball that hooks more and moving more to the center part of the lane.
So we just saw Chris Barnes, your 3 seed, step up. He has next. But Wolfe,
Go figure, Randy.
not done with this one.
Nice job, Richie Wolfe.
213 to 176. Wolfe moves on. And when we roll on, we reflect back on Pete Weber's U.S. Open dominance through the years and tell you how he directly affected the exempt cut line for next year. Chris Barnes, your 3 seed, getting loose and getting ready for Wolfe.
We welcome you back to ESPN's continuing coverage of the 66th edition of the Lumber Liquidators U.S. Open. Rob Stone, Randy Peterson here with you. Our thanks to Warren Fieldler, the general manager here at Brunswick Zone Carolier. Wonderful establishment for this tournament again. The Weber family has had some success at this tournament. There's another statement, huh, Randy? We flash back to 1966, and Dick Weber, he won it the year before and did the same thing in Chicago in 66.
U.S. Open title seemed to run in the Weber family, huh?
And it's a shame we don't see those jerseys anymore.
You see that classic Dick Weber rip the 5 into the 7?
Love it. Great entertainment. And Dick's son Pete Weber had a great run here as well, as we take a look at some of the recent winners of the U.S. Open. It was not contested in 2002. You see Pete Weber winning it there in 07 as well. And Pete Weber, a big part of the exempt cut line as far as who made it and who didn't make it this year due to an injury last night, and it just kind of goes to talk about the rigors of this U.S. Open.
Well, and you take a look at that list of past winners, and they're either Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers. There are no gimmies at the U.S. Open, and that list proves it.
Well, the exempt cut line, always something to discuss, and it, as always, it kind of comes down to that last little tournament and some late movement. It's Mike Edwards. Todd Book above the line. Mike Edwards was actually below the cut line, but Pete Weber had to withdraw. Edwards was able to fill in, earn some points, and jump right on up. So Jason Sterner just below the cut line for now. Doug Kent below as well, but he's an exempt player, as is John Nolan with his win at the U.S. BC. So what surprises you and satisfies you with that cut line?
Well, I think that one thing that we have to be aware of is that if Richie Wolfe wins this event today, then that cut line moves up another number. So Richie Wolfe can still play a part in this exempt field.
Always interesting here at the U.S. Open, isn't it? And we get set for match 2 here in New Jersey of the U.S. Open, and they are all fighting for that one. And Chris Barnes has got a beat on it. He is your 3 seed with a chance to win Player of the Year honors. Richie Wolfe with some fans here in attendance as the birthday boy, the 5 seed, has moved on to take on the 3 seed Chris Barnes, Rob Stone, Randy Peterson. Glad you're spending part of your Sunday with us here at the Bowling Center. More bowling coming your way. The PBA King of Bowling, powered by AMP Top 10 Bowlers from the Player of the Year point list, plus 1 wild card selection, will do battle in this special 5-week Wednesday night primetime series on ESPN2. Begins April 22nd. Richie Wolfe, a 213-176 winner over Monacelli, and he rolls on to take on, and Randy, you have to call him the hottest bowler on the tour right now, Chris Barnes.
Yeah, without question. He's certainly showcased his talents the second half of the season.
An opening strike for Wolfe. He beat Chris Barnes both times they met this week.
And how about Richie showing a lot of maple moxie? The birthday boy is just like, hey, man, you know, I've got to take advantage of this opportunity.
This is the 10th top 5 finish of the season for Chris Barnes. A win today, and he will earn Player of the Year honors. And here's Barnes. Any added pressure about trying to win a major and Player of the Year honors on the same day?
4 weeks ago, I was basically dead in the water. I didn't have any chance at really any of this. I could have a nice season, but I was out of the running of the Player of the Year and a lot of different things. So I'm kind of on house money right now. Just riding the wave, riding the momentum, and, you know, we'll see. I actually even have a small winning streak on TV. So we'll see if we can parlay that one into one more.
Opening jacks for Barnes. You know, he did make the TV show in the first event of the season, the PBA World Championships in Wichita, finished second, falling to Norm Duke, 259 to 189, and then kind of went through a rough patch. And he said in Buffalo is where things started to turn around. I got my game on, starting to get some good results. And boy, that second half of the season, Randy, you're right. Last 5 shows coming in order. He's finished 3rd, 5th, 1st, and 9th. Here is Richie Wolfe, just his first tournament of the season.
It's his first tournament in 2 years. This kid hasn't bowled anything except league and maybe a couple of local tournaments at home.
I said, though, he's been tearing it up in leagues. He's a member of 2 teams, right? The Trigon Homes, the home builder there, and the Strike Snipers. Love that name, the Strike Snipers, and he believes they locked up the league when he wasn't there this week. But he told us he was dropping a couple 300s in league play lately, and you know, I don't care what you're bowling on and where, a 300 is still a 300. You get the sense he's kind of re-familiarizing himself with some of the things that go on during the TV show. Oh yeah, we got shot clocks, we got some of these lights, some interviews. Kick it, yeah! Take it! Happy birthday to you!
Show Daddy some love. Oh, well, he said it's your birthday, and da-da-da-da-da-da.
It's my birthday too.
How about a little trip 6? Oh yeah, a little love off the sidewall.
That's a textbook.
Takes that out.
Kick 6. Love it. Now Barnes steps up, looking to open up with 3 strikes.
Three pins left, every shot.
Well, I'm not sure what he means by that, but He knows what he means by that.
That's all that matters.
And that's a great shot in a ring and 10. And Chris Barnes, to start this game, 3 quality shots.
Barnes, 12 tour titles, 2 majors. He won the 05 U.S. Open and the 06 TOC. Your Flomax weekly update on Chris Barnes. Again, finished 9th last week in West Babylon.
Yeah, and that was only because he struggled the last round of match play. He was in the show going into Friday night, and he said he just didn't make the right adjustments and was not prepared. But it could have easily been 5 shows in a row for this, or excuse me, 6 in a row.
Right. All right.
Blows that rack up. Seeking his 3rd title in his last 4 events. The last time somebody achieved that, guess who?
That's right.
Walter Ray.
I was going to go out on a limb and say Walter Ray.
Yeah,
Williams
when in
Jr.
doubt, throw out Walter Ray Williams Jr. He accomplished that in 1998. So here is Richie Wolfe. Strike, spare, strike. Down 9 as he wraps up the 4th.
Well, you can see that right at release, Robert. Looked like Richie just turned it early just a bit. And again, on this tough U.S. Open pattern, that ball will not lay off.
The other southpaw on the show, Mike Scroggins, waiting in the wings. He's your 2 seed. Just Wolfe and Scroggins, 2 lefties, 3 righties on the show today. Again, Norm Duke, your defending champion, your number 1 seed.
2. We're gonna do it. What do you want to do with it? Make up your mind. Do it. Let go.
Well, you can see what Richie Wolfe has done from match 1 to match 2, and the reason why you see the big jump, and look at how many boards to the center of the lane he's moved, and that's because he's gone to a much more aggressive bowling ball.
That's better. That's
He's made some wonderful adjustments so far today.
I mean, with all that's out there and what he's going through, you got to admit he's made some great shots, and this is just another one of those. You notice that his hand stays behind that shot much better, which keeps it on line and keeps it from changing direction violently down the lane.
It's the 3rd U.S. Open show Chris Barnes has made. Again, he won it in 2005.
Rob, I think if you were to ask the players today who the best bowler on tour is, they would say that man right there. But one of the guys said something very interesting to me, and I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but he said, you know what? You've got a chance against Chris Barnes on television in a 1-game match. After that, you have no chance.
If it's a sprint, maybe he'll give you a sniff. If it's a marathon, step aside. Barnes looking for 3 in a row. We begin the 6th.
And Rob, the reason why he's that way is because he's a great technician. He has a really good idea of what the lanes are giving him. He's got a great game plan week in and week out, and he throws great shots. The other guy that does that comes to mind, Norm Duke.
And Norm Duke, your number 1 seed today. If Barnes wins or Norm Duke wins, they will be your player of the year. The conclusion of match number 2 when we return. We welcome you back to Brunswick Zone Carolier here in North Brunswick, New Jersey. The 5th consecutive year that the U.S. Open has been contested here. Through 5.5. Chris Barnes with the lead, and we fire up the RV and hit the road. PBA Women's Series Showdown presented by USBC beginning April 12th from Kegel Training Facility in Lake Wales, Florida. From the same place, it's the PBA King of Bowling powered by AMP. Coverage of that begins Wednesday, April 22nd. And then the PBA Senior Open. It starts in Jackson, Michigan, where Hall of Famer Johnny Petraglia is the defending champion. Airport Lanes in Jackson, Michigan for that one.
Nothing like a road trip, Rob.
You know I love me a good old road trip. Those gas prices going down. Tell me, RV's looking more and more tempting. Here is Richie Wolfe. Strike, spare, strike, spare, strike. Here he is in the 6th.
Good. Had a good shot. Good shot.
Leaves the 10.
All right. Gotta get him across there.
So Wolfe stays clean.
Well, we talked about the move that he made from match 1 to match 2. You can see just how much straighter he's going in that first match, but different story in match number 2. You see how much deeper he is with that hand going just slightly around and creating a lot more angle. The only problem for Rich Wolfe now is he's bowling a Dutch 200 game. That's strike, spare, strike, spare, strike, spare. Chris Barnes has got a double and a 3-bagger, and he's trailing Chris Barnes by 29.
And the Dutch 200 is alive, but not well.
And you know, this week in match play, a Dutch 200 or a small 200 would have won a majority of the matches.
Right. I mean, two bills is not bad at all.
I had a lot of great players come up to me this week and say, my God, are they brutal.
Well, remember, Wolfe won match 1 with a 213 to Monachelli's 176. Barnes, though, is hot to trot, up 29. Here he is in the 7th. Boy, he is looking tough. Tough! The double of Texas native. In his 11th year on the tour, hunting down major number 3.
And again, we talk about accuracy, location, but you look at where he's at the arrows, okay, and also what he's doing with the break point down the lane, and that means that he's trying to get that ball just right of that locator down the lane on this lane surface. You can see that targeting system right there.
Barnes drops the nickel in the 8th. He's won 3 of the last 4 tournaments, said this is the 2nd best run of his career. A title today would make it the best streak.
That's why he's that good. That's the way it goes. Beautiful. There's
only a spare in the 3rd.
Like that.
Everything else has been strikes for Wolfe's opponent, Chris Barnes.
Make this shot. Let's go. Let's think later.
You see Richie Wolfe using that same location down the lane on this Brunswick Pro Anvil lane, and that's one of the advantages of those rangefinders down the lane. As you take a look at our non-exempt point list, the player that was not exempt this season with the most points earns a full exemption for next season, and that man, Troy Wallenbecker.
Congratulations to Troy. Look forward to seeing him on the tour next year.
Put it on the spot. On the spot, baby.
Do or die time now for Richie Wolfe, and he knows it.
He's alive! He's alive! 326 PBA events he's rolled without a title. If he was exempt, it'd be the 2nd longest such streak, and now he has 3 strikes in a row.
That's called high flush in our sport, Mr. Stone. High flush. Which is pretty much what Chris Barnes has done throughout this entire game.
A U.S. Open 6-pack for Barnes there in the 8th. He's a buzzsaw right now.
Boy, this is a Duke-like performance for Chris Barnes out of the gate. He's 2 strikes in the 10th away from shooting 270, and they all look the same. Again, one of the most talented players to ever throw a bowling ball when his mind is right and he's got a good look. He's unbeatable.
looking for 7 straight strikes. Needs just 8 for the win. That one got way away from him. Dropped 6.
And I think one of the big things in this match is that Chris Barnes got off to a quick start, was never pressured, and he was able to freewheel, so to speak. Unfortunately, this was a little bit too free as he misses target right and flags the head pin.
And he's able to have kind of that freewheel approach here with the, again, player of the year on the line here, but he is the defending champ, and that was something that was the defending winner of player of the year. And
there you go.
This is something, a title that he really desperately felt he needed to.
Nice ball, buddy.
It was kind of put his mark on the bowling history. He earned it last season, so he says, you know, coming in here, even though I know if I win, I get it again, it's not this big looming thing hanging over the top of me like it was last year. You know, I put so much pressure on myself with the expectations and everything else. Now, if I win it, it's just a really cool thing.
And just so you know, Barnes is the winner, even though he opened, because the best Rich Wolfe can shoot is 240 if he strikes out. What a great week for that man. And just a great talent. We'd love to have Richie Wolfe back out on this tour again, that's for sure. I'm not so sure, though, that that's in the cards for Richie Wolfe.
240, Keith.
He's doing well.
Not enough against this cat.
Yeah, absolutely. Who would have?
Barnes is good.
Who would have thought that 240 wouldn't win?
Another one. It's a Yahtzee here.
It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
Great watching you again this week.
He didn't sound like a man who would be coming back, but you know he enjoyed this week to the max.
Well, there's a class act in Barnes giving Richie his due.
Hit that 7. Yeah!
For Richie!
Doesn't matter, I don't care. How about a standing ovation for Richie Wolfe? But it's Chris Barnes that walks away. Winner return. What do LeBron James and plastic balls have in common? All right, shoe up and hang on. We'll tell you on the backside. Scroggins waiting in the wings. We welcome you back to New Jersey. Chris Barnes has just moved on with a 243-240 victory over Richie Wolfe. He'll take on the lone remaining lefty, Mike Scroggins. And we jump into our bowling time machine and flash back to that man, Johnny Petraglia's win at the 1977 U.S. Open. Johnny winning that one in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Beat Bill Spiegner. Johnny's looking fit and trim back in the 70s, huh?
I like it. He's looking pretty good right now, too. He even has his own scoring system. Are you aware of that? We'll talk about that.
We're going to be using that.
Yeah. Great. More math. All right. Updated Denny's PBA Player of the Year points, and Chris Barnes now with 61 again. Duke and Barnes, the only way they can eclipse Wes Malott is by winning today's U.S. Open. If Chris Barnes beats Mike Scroggins, that guarantees that Wes Malott will not win PBA Player of the Year. We take a look now at the top 10 moments this season on the PBA Tour, and we go from 10 to 6. We begin with number 10, and we begin before the season even began in North Carolina at the Chris Paul charity event where the king, LeBron James, teamed up with Jason Couch to beat the team of Chris Barnes and Chris Paul.
You have such a man crush on LeBron. It's stupid.
How could you not? It's physically impossible not to be impressed by it.
He is pretty cool.
Weebles wobbles, doesn't fall down. LeBron Couch win it. At number 9, Patrick Allen, Lady Luck, sitting by him for a couple tournaments. First, Walter Ray Williams Jr. in Reno for the win. No. And PA takes the title. And then in Vegas at the TOC, it's Rhino Page gifting one to PA. He'll take it.
Nothing wrong with being on the receiving end once in a while.
Checking in at Ocho. The women's series continuing to show great growth across our country.
Michelle Feldman, man, she really proved some dominance on that women's tour. Carolyn Doran-Ballard, she's coming back. Remember when she was struggling early on? She came away with a win as well.
An emotional win for CDB as well. At number 7, what a great underdog story this one was. John Nolan from Michigan. Never won a tour title, and yet he just storms through the field at the USBC Masters in Vegas.
I mean, this guy came out of nowhere. He took down a pretty good field, including a major championship winner in Danny Wiseman.
Nolan's first tour title, a major. And checking in at number 6, something that stirred up a lot of controversy and conversation through the bowling world, the extreme swing, which was eventually won by Chris Barnes.
There you see Jeff Carter winning the plastic ball tournament. Wes Milan making sure that his name stays on top of the Player of the Year race. But there's your man, Chris Barnes, showcasing all of his talents.
Coming up a little later in the show, we'll have 5 through 1 as we take a look at our Grand Slam point list. The top 4 qualify for the Geico PBA team shootout a little bit later this summer, held right here in the Garden State of New Jersey. Let's take a look at some highlights from earlier today. We begin match 1.
Well, Richie, he got his nerves kind of in check, made some great quality shots, and took advantage of a couple of open frames by Amleto Monacelli.
Wolfe won it 213-176. Up next, Chris Barnes, and Barnes is on the tear.
Richie Wolfe just basically ran into the lion's den there when he took on major championship winner and reigning Player of the Year, Chris Barnes.
243-240, Chris Barnes, your winner. On deck, our semifinal matchup. Second seed Southpaw Mike Scroggins begins his quest for his second major of his extremely underrated 17-year career. ESPN's continuing live coverage of the U.S. Open from New Jersey rolls on. Rob Stone, Randy Peterson here with you as we get set for essentially our semifinal match between your 2 seed Mike Scroggins and your 3 seed Chris Barnes. Randy, early thoughts on this one?
Well, it's going to be very interesting as to what type of ball reaction Mike Scroggins has, because he throws it completely different than Richie Wolfe. Richie Wolfe was in hooking it. Mike Scroggins likes to go very straight. I think that Chris Barnes had a lot of practice time while we were at break to do more to the oil pattern to improve or help his cause.
This is the 8th championship round appearance of the season for Barnes. Barnes opened up with a pair of strikes in his match versus Wolfe, and then struck 4 through 9 for the 243-240 win. Here is Mike Scroggins from Amarillo, Texas. 1 major on his resume, the 2005 Masters, 5 tour titles.
Yes.
And things this week at the U.S. Open relatively easy for Mike Scroggins with all the experience he's been gaining here.
I think that really helped me a lot, especially the B squad where you bowled right after the the A squad without oiling, and that really I knew exactly what to do on that. So I think that really helped me out.
Again, I said relatively easy, Randy, as you're writing easy and yelling at me like there's nothing easy out here. Again, relatively easy for him compared to maybe years in the past.
Look at the amateurs average this week, 180. I actually bowled on Friday night and averaged like 178. and just barely beat a member of our crew by like 4 or 5 pins. So you know who you are, Charles. You talked at the setup of this match, and the advantage clearly has to go to Chris Barnes. 1, he's got a game under his belt. 2, he is a master at creating or helping the oil pattern to his favor. And 3, past winner of this event. I mean, you can go on and on, but for Mike Scroggins, he's in a scary spot because he knows that he can't let Chris Barnes get too far ahead. And Chris Barnes proved in the first game that he is locked in.
It was interesting talking to these two late last night after qualifying ended, and we were able to know who was on the show and not. And we asked Chris Barnes, he said, you know, I went through about maybe 4 balls this week. Mike Scroggins, 10 to 12. Normally it's just 2 or 3 for him. What does that tell you?
There's a lot of fishing going on. A lot of fishing, a lot of trying to just find, you know, a combination that would give him another ½ an inch to an inch area, either at the target or at the break point. But, you know, you talked to ball reps this week, you talked to the players this week, there was no magic ball. It just strictly came down to skill and making and repeating good shots, period. I think he's going to be a handful. I really do. And again, you can see that he's moved in a little bit in this match. He's about 2 boards left of where he was in the match against Richie Wolfe. And that was because of the practice that he got during the break. He was able to break down the oil pattern a little bit more and create a little more friction to the right.
Scroggins strike and 8 spare in the second. Told us about the confidence he had coming in here. You know, said the last 2 or 3 years have been getting better and better in this building for me. I feel like I kind of know the lanes, how they would play, what surface, the balls I needed.
And I think the other reason why the left-handers traditionally have struggled here at the U.S. Open over the years is because there's just not enough of the southpaws to actually break the oil pattern down enough to where they actually create a little bit more area for themselves. On the right side, you got a ton more right-handers beating up the oil pattern, and at least if nothing else, creating more of a dry spot to throw to.
I want to remind you that 6 of the best bowlers from the PBA's Women's Series will return for a special event presented by the USBC. Stephanie Nation, Michelle Feldman, Carolyn Doran-Ballard, Westner, Wendy McPherson, Missy Bellander, all there to compete in this event featuring the Petraglia scoring system. Because I need more things to learn in bowling. And Mike Scroggins having some issues on the left side of that lane.
And good news, he avoids the split again, and that was the theme for this week. However, you've got a guy that you're going up against who proved he can throw a lot of strikes today. And not so much the case throughout the week. I mean, yeah, the guys would occasionally have a 240, 250, but it was rare. And the players knew that as long as they could stay clean and somehow try to manufacture a double or a 3-bagger, they had a really good chance to win matches. I don't believe that 2-0 or 2-team will be enough to beat Chris Barnes in this match.
And the same goes for Norm Duke in the title match.
It's close.
That one just flew over the 10.
And again, just another additive to the ingredients that make up a tough U.S. Open tournament. Once you do make that pure shot and that you do find the pocket, you don't always strike.
He also said to us, you know, I still have to be soft with my hand. Are you noticing that from him?
Well, yeah, and you know, Chris works on that diligently because He's got such a high rev rate with heavy roll that if he starts grabbing it or gnawing on it at the bottom of the swing, it's just going to make his bowling ball hook early. And this week, to get the ball to feed to the right, he had to have a soft hand. You take a look at his cat stats from match 2 to match 3. 10.5 board, close to the 11th board. Look, he's a good 3 boards left from that last game. And right there is proof, Rob, of how much he's beaten up this old pattern to his advantage, because I guarantee you 2 games ago, this would have been 6. And it would have flagged the head pin. Now look at the return he's getting.
So Barnes has now gone strike, spare, strike, working the Dutch 200. Mike Scroggins struck in the first. Since then, 3 spares in a row.
Oh, trouble. You got to get it going that way, but not too far.
No time to panic yet for Scroggins, but it's getting awfully close.
Well, when you're not hitting the pocket and your opponent is, under these type of conditions, it's time to panic. Right now, he's just trying to make the 1-3-7-9.
Great pickup. What a lift for Scroggins.
Oh, that's a good shot here.
We saw Norm Duke last year in the title match with a huge spare conversion for the title, and you know, sometimes you get something like that, it's able to kind of spur you on through the rest of the match.
He's got to somehow find a way to make great shots. Can't have any mistakes on his side of the lane. Mike Scroggins needs to dig deep.
And there's his second strike of the semifinal. A little advice to our married men out there. When the missus offers a helpful performance suggestion, you take her up on it, Randy. You know what I'm talking about. Mike Scroggins knows also what I'm talking about. We will explain next. Tight one brewing in the semis. Mike Scroggins clawed his way back into the semifinal, down 8 to Chris Barnes. And if you're looking for one-of-a-kind PBA memorabilia and collectibles, PBA.com's auction site is the place for you. Right now, the site featuring a special U.S. Open auction with items like game-used jerseys, bowling balls, autographed items, photos, scorecards, and pin sweeps from this prestigious event. To participate, head to PBA.com and click on the auction tab. Gotta get me one of them pin sweeps in my man cave. Here is Barnes in the 6th, again working the Dutch 200 game. Wow, is this a long setup?
How about that one?
Oh, are you kidding me? I mean, you can't be serious. Chris Barnes has set up this pair perfectly for himself, and now all of a sudden he can't carry. Watch this, almost leaves a pocket 7-10. Head pin goes to the sidewall. All of a sudden he's staring at 8. And oh, how you gotta love that messenger.
Let's remember that one. Could have been the opening that Scroggins needed to maybe take the lead in the 7th.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Chris Barnes should be winning by 50 right now. Based on ball reaction, Chris Barnes, he went light in frame 2, 10 pin in frame 4, and that blower 7 in the 6th frame, and he only leads by 8 pins. Say that because Mike Scroggins has only hit the pocket twice.
Yeah, it's been a scrappy game for Mike Scroggins. Again, Scroggins made the TV show at the TOC in Las Vegas. His lovely wife Melanie was there in attendance, and Mike was quickly dispatched in that tournament, and afterwards the missus said, you know what, you got to come out with a little more energy. I need to see some jump, some vibe in you, son. So he made the show in Columbus and said, you know what, I think I need to pop one of them amp drinks. And he was talking about it, but he did not follow through.
Well, you cannot get it left.
But he said, I got one in my room.
Anything, get it right.
I'm going to crack that baby open for today to give himself a little pop, a little kick, and he needs some energy. He needs a boost right now.
Yeah, he needs to crack a six-pack amp right now because he keeps missing target wide left, and he cannot. He's got to be able to find a way to miss target right and have his ball hold line to the pocket. Richie Wolfe could miss target wide left because he has a lot more hand, more revolutions, more power. That's why he was farther towards the center part of the lane and hooking it. So with that extra power, he could afford to miss a little bit left of target. Mike Scroggins cannot.
Just 2 strikes in this semifinal match for your 2 seed Mike Scroggins. Norm Duke waiting in the wings as your 1 seed and defending U.S. Open champ. There you go, Scroggy. A smile of relief.
Boy, he really needed this because, again, this keeps him in the match, gives him an opportunity to throw a double, and Chris Barnes has not doubled yet.
4 strikes for Barnes, 3 for Scroggins. Seems like Barnes has taken a lot more time on his setup and approach coming out of that commercial break than he did before it.
It does, and this could be the turning point in the match right here. Chris Barnes goes high, leads to 3-6-9-10. This could be the opening that Mike Scroggins has been looking for. Chris Barnes failed to put him away. Just let him hang around and see if he can convert the 3-6-9-10. Remember, the trouble pin is that back pin, the 9 pin.
Get lucky.
Got it.
Great shot.
Got it. Both have cleaned up some ugly messes with spares. Scroggins had a washout in the 5th. Able to cover it up. And Barnes with a great pickup there in the 8th.
He's perfect on the left lane, has not struck on the right lane. He has to finish this game and this match
on the right.
On the right lane. Now, what happens when he gets up in the 10th? He just went high. Was it a bad shot, or does he make an adjustment? Does he move left? If he moves to the inside part of the lane and misses too far to the right, it's going to hang and will never get back. Right now, Mike Scroggins is in a great position to add pressure and make Chris Barnes think about his 10th frame, but it has to start with a strike here in the 9th and 2 more in the 10th.
He had a strike on this right lane in the 1st frame, nothing but spares since.
What a great time. What a great time.
And maybe his best shot of this match. When he needed it most, he steps up and doubles and takes the lead.
And now moves to that left lane as we begin the 10th. What a great semifinal, and it's just leading us into what should be a memorable conclusion here at the U.S. Open. Norm Duke, your #1 seed, looking to not only defend his U.S. Open title, but also win Player of the Year honors. Mike Scroggins, down, but resourceful, scrappy, and not out of it yet.
Well, it's certainly not over. He converts the spare here and strikes on his fill shot. He'll shoot 200 even. If Chris Barnes goes spare strike, that would be a Dutch 200 game. We would have a tie. But you knew that, didn't you, Rob Stone?
I'm all over the Dutch 200 game. Good pickup by Scroggins.
Big shot coming up right now. All 10. It is Phil's shot. 2-0-0 forces Chris Barnes to strike on his very first ball in the 10th to move on to the title match.
Trying to inch that thermostat up a little bit in here, Scroggins.
Remember, Chris Barnes has not struck yet on the right lane.
And also remember, if Barnes wins the title today, he's your player of the year.
Yeah, Scroggy! Huge!
Absolutely huge.
Sits down at 2 bills. Pressure on Barnes.
Great pin action coming up. Mike Scroggins willing him down. Come on, Kerry. 9-pin goes last. He's like, still got a shot, still got a shot.
So Barnes must strike. Must strike to move on. Betrayed by the 8-pin.
Got to have all 10. And all I can say is I'm absolutely speechless from the solid 8-pin that Chris Barnes just left. That shot was absolutely perfect. Coming to you from a guy that knows a thing or two about leaving solid 8s, that ball was perfect. Now, he must have all 10 right here. Has yet to strike. That last shot was absolutely perfect. I promise you, he throws this next shot the same exact way. We'll have a tie.
And a roll-off.
Moves on. Wow. Don't shake your head, Scroggy. You take it.
All I can say is unbelievable. Chris Barnes did everything he was supposed to do in that 10th frame and was robbed.
That, folks, is the U.S. Open. Plain and simple. The 2 seed, Mike Scroggins, moves on to take on Norm Duke. Wes Malott still has a shot at Player of the Year honors. Norm Duke, though, has to lose. When we return, a flashback to 1961. We conclude our season's best top 10 list. And Jason Belmonte joins us live next as Norm Duke, the #1 seed, gets loose. We welcome you back to ESPN's live coverage of the 66th edition of the Lumber Liquidators U.S. Open. Mike Scroggins and Norm Duke getting set for your title match. We flash back to May 31st, 1961, the first PBA network telecast. It was the $75,000 National PBA Invitational from the Paramus Bowl in Paramus, New Jersey, just about 45 miles northeast of us, Randy.
Well, Rob, unfortunately, I missed that telecast because I wasn't born yet. I actually came a year after, but look at Eddie Elias, the founder of the PBA, putting that jacket on the winner. Awesome.
Norm Duke getting set to defend his U.S. Open title. The majors mean everything to him, and Norm prominently displayed in our top 5 events of this season. Checking in at number 5, the great PBA PTI debate. Tony Wilbon, please discuss.
We've got a good old-fashioned bowling controversy. Seems this Sunday's PBA event outside Denver has banned high-tech reactive resin ball. But using old-school plastic balls doesn't sit well with tour leader Wes Malott, who's skipping the event, saying, quote, nobody's asking Tiger Woods to use a wood driver or Roger Federer to use a wood racket.
Yeah, I'd like it if there was a tennis tournament where you use wood rackets.
Sure.
I'd like it if there was a golf tournament where you used persimmon clubs. Why not have, it's only one.
Here's what this will be. If it is just one, and Wes Malott doesn't want to compete,
it's a throwback tournament.
Speaking of Wes Malott, at number 4, he was Mr. Versatility this year, and it helped put him in the fabled catbird seat for now in the Player of the Year pursuit.
Yeah, what a season he had with 8 telecasts and 3 wins, and doing it on all sorts of different oil patterns. He really did prove his versatility this season.
Great season for Strike-A-Lot, Wes Malott. At number 3, what a celebration it was. The 50th anniversary, the top 50 bowlers all time, and of course, the debate of who really is number 1. Eventually won by Earl Anthony.
Yeah, it's the greatest event I have ever been a part of that the PBA put on. It was absolutely just a unforgettable evening.
And Earl Anthony edging out Walter Ray Williams Jr. for the title of greatest bowler ever in PBA history.
Nobody dominated tournaments out here like Earl Anthony did.
He rolls the ball with 2 hands. He doesn't put his thumb in the ball. He is bringing a whole new world to bowling. I think you're going to watch this guy. Remember the name, Jason Belmonte. He's going to change the face of the game with Rob Stone.
Spread the word, Woody, and Jason backed up Woodrow's words with a huge win last week in Long Island.
And it's just a historic moment, the first time a 2-handed bowler has ever won an event out here on tour.
And our number 1 moment was at the first stop of the year. Norm Duke in Wichita winning the PBA World Championship for his 3rd major in a row.
That is one bad mammal, Rob Stone.
And Norm looking for another major today here at the U.S. Open. And Duke getting loose right now to take on Mike Scroggins. We're joined now by the man who checked in at number 2, Jason Belmonte. And you've had a week to have that win kind of set in and settle in. What are your thoughts on the importance of that to your career?
It was definitely the most amazing tournament that I've ever won. Bowling on TV with the PBA on the greatest bowling stage in the world, and then to come up victory against 2 of my best mates. A dream come true, mate.
Really quickly, have you decided what your future is going to be with the PBA next season?
I'll definitely be back here for the next season. I have my exemption, so I'm going to utilize it as much as I can. And I guess, I'm just going to try and rack up another win, I guess, just day by day, see how it goes.
That's usually what happens next. Jason, thanks for your time. Look forward to seeing you next year. Randall, time for the Geico Championship recap.
You got it, Rob. Match number 1, 2 guys that haven't been around in a while. Richie Wolfe taking on Amleto Monachelli. 2 superstars. Richie Wolfe takes down the Hall of Famer 213 to 176. Richie then advances to take on the reigning Player of the Year. Richie Wolfe shoots 240. Unfortunately, Chris Barnes shoots 243. And in match number 3, the match you just witnessed, Mike Scroggins pulls 200. Chris Barnes, stone 8 to lose. The flat 10 cost him. He loses by 1 stick.
What a semifinal. And now we are set for number 1 seed Norm Duke, who seeks to defend his U.S. Open title and earn his 3rd Player of the Year honor. 1 match, 1 win. He scores both. No shortage of Norm Duke fans. I don't even know that guy. How can I be his homeboy? We are set for the title match of the 66th edition of the U.S. Open. Their top 2 seeds squaring off. Norm Duke versus Mike Scroggins with Player of the Year on the line. If Duke wins it, he is Player of the Year. If Scroggins wins it, Wes Malott will be your Player of the Year for the first time in his career. And Mike Scroggins, be really interesting to see how he starts this match. Again, a thrilling 200
199 win in the semifinals over Chris Barnes. And again, it was not pretty for Scroggins. Struck in the first, and then 4 spares in a row, a strike in the 6th, a spare in the 7th, and then he started to warm up.
And looking to become the first southpaw since Mike Albee, 1989, to win a U.S. Open title.
One of the most underrated bowlers in the PBA.
Mike Scroggins.
Absolutely. And underappreciated, I think.
Without question. But those of us out here that know Mike Scroggins, we know different. We know what a class act he is, what a gentleman he is, and what a great talent he is.
His 33rd career TV singles appearance, just 5 titles, one of them a major. Now here is, what a wonderful story. Norm Duke won the first major of the season. It was the first tournament of the year, the PBA World Championships in Wichita. It was his 3rd straight major title.
On the same lane, Chris Barnes left the stone 8. Norm Duke starts this match with a stone 8. And I guarantee you the next time Norm gets up on this right lane, he's going to take a long, hard look at that rack. It's incomprehensible how that's happening. You see it once, okay. You see it twice out of the last 3 shots thrown on that lane with 2 different bowlers. Very unusual.
And here's what a major title means to Norm.
Majors are, there are pinnacle events, and I think that our careers will be evaluated at the end in our ability to win the major championships. And I watch Tiger Woods like a hawk, just like everybody else in America. And to see what he does in the majors is not only unbelievable, but it's admirable. And I want to do the same thing in bowling that he does in golf, and that is dominate in these major events.
He told us, you know, in history, our careers will be scrutinized by how well we play at majors and how many we win. And he said, and I love this last night, Randy, I want to pad the stats a little bit right now, and majors are a way to do that.
Well, remember, the last time a player defended a U.S. Open title was back in 1995-96 with Dave Husted. Prior to that, you would have to go back to the All-Stars, which was the predecessor to the U.S. Open. Get to that in a minute.
Did not like it.
All right.
Wide left off his hand.
Not get it left. How many times are you going to do that?
There were 3 players that successfully defended All-Star titles. That would have been Dick Weber, Don Carter, and a gentleman by the name of Andy Verapapa. And this is a great nugget. I got this from Johnny Petraglia. He said, you know, Randy, one of the most impressive feats that I've ever seen is that when Andy Verapapa successfully won back-to-back All-Star tournaments.
I didn't want to chop it like I did against Barnes, so I missed it on another way.
Open frame for Scroggins.
Andy Verapapa wins back-to-back All-Star tournaments back in the 40s when it was a 100-game tournament, and he did it at age 55 and 56. And the very next year at age 57, he finished 2nd.
There's some bowling stamina for you.
I couldn't bowl 100 games right now at age 46.
He's the 4-7 heavy on that approach.
I promise you that 2-0-0 will not win this game. Won't happen.
This may be deja vu all over again for Mike Scroggins. His only major title came at the 05 Masters. He was the number 2 seed there. And who did he beat? Norm Duke for it. And that was their only TV confrontation until right now. Scroggins, 5 titles, 1 major. Norm Duke, 32 titles, 6 majors. He wins today. It'll be his 33rd tournament title. And he'll be all alone in 5th place, breaking a tie with Parker Bone III. And then that would pull him to within 1 of both Mark Roth and Pete Weber. And he is heavy and leads the big 4.
Looked like he turned that shot early. Right at the bottom of the swing. Watch the hand. Looked like it went around just a shade early, which is all it takes here to get that ball to overreact.
3.
He told you before our broadcast began with live bowling that he was a little nervous about this coming out. He amps himself up so much for the majors, particularly this tournament.
Yeah, and you know, maybe I'm wrong to assume this, but I mean, totally understandable, him being nervous, amped up. But when you see the winning score of the match before you was 2-0-0, I mean, that's kind of a calming, that should have a calming effect on him coming into this title match.
It is a sloppy title match right now, and not sloppy because poor skill. There's some really challenging conditions out there.
Well, you can bet right now that Norm is calculating all of the possibilities, adjustments in his head right now, and when we come back from break, I guarantee you there will be a change.
So Duke picks up the spare. When we return, the conclusion of the 66th edition of the U.S. Open, Mike Scroggins versus Norm Duke.
Divisional rival.
We welcome you back to the 66th Lumber Liquidators U.S. Open, coming your way from Brunswick Zone Carolier here in North Brunswick, New Jersey. That is the hardware. That is the ring. $100,000 check, 3-year exemption, and Player of the Year honors should Norm Duke win it. Mike Scroggins about to step up for his effort in the 4th. He is up 2. It has been scrappy, resourceful so far here in the title match for both competitors.
Yeah, we talked about the last Southpaw to ever win this tournament, which was Mike Albee. Ironically, Mike Scroggins used to room with Mike Albee.
And Mike Scroggins beat Duke in both head-to-head battles this week as well. Who is the favorite right now after 4 in your mind?
I think it's a coin toss.
Okay. Another strike for Scroggins. I guess, let me rephrase that. How much of an advantage is it for Scroggins having bowled the prior match here on the lanes?
Oh, it's huge for him. You know, quite honestly, it didn't look like he should have gotten by Chris Barnes. He did because of bad luck that Chris Barnes ended up getting in the 10th frame. Norm Duke doesn't look like he's comfortable on this pair yet. Advantage Mike Scroggins.
Leaves the 7.
I'm going to throw the spare, and I'm going to need tape.
Not a lot of violence in the pins today with Norm's tosses.
A little shaker 7 there, light. He doesn't like the entry angle that he's getting right now. He's going to have to make some type of adjustment.
What would be the adjustment you'd recommend to him?
Well, again, you know, the adjustments this week were so subtle. It could be something as simple as just a little bit softer speed on that lane to get the ball to face up a little bit stronger. But, you know, he's made the decision to go with the ball that he's using. As you see, Norm's going to tape. He's going to replace the tape in his thumb hole. You look at the holes on Norm's bowling balls. You notice the edges are razor sharp. And that basically what he does is he pulls it right off the press. Look at that thumb hole there and the finger holes down there. He pulls it off of the drill press and doesn't take a sander to those holes. And the reason why he does that is because it eliminates him from squeezing any of the holes.
Gets his second strike, coming in the 6th frame.
I will say this, though. Nobody's more resilient than Norm Duke, and he does have the major championship experience. He's been in this situation before, and I think if it comes down to the 10th frame, he'll handle the pressure better.
Again, Duke has won 6 majors. A win today would be his 7th, which would tie him for 4th most with Walter Ray Williams Jr. Earl Anthony, of course, #1 on that list with 10 major titles.
So good with those stats.
I spent hours working on it. And I found this little soundbite interesting from Mike Scroggins last night. We asked him, hey, what does winning the U.S. Open mean to you? His first response, that means 3 more years out here. Yeah. It wasn't the check. It wasn't the prestige. It was another 3 years on the tour with that exemption.
Another guaranteed 3 years out here with the boys.
Gets 3 in a row to kick. And now Scroggins starting to light it up a little bit here.
He's got a game under his belt. He's relaxed. He knows exactly what the lanes are going to give him.
So 4 strikes in 6 frames for Mike Scroggins.
So much on the line. Player of the Year race, $100,000. 3-year exemption. The biggest is the U.S. Open crown. And just like that, the momentum swings towards Norm Duke's corner. And again, okay, he missed his target by a board inside. All he's looking for is something that he can convert. Leave himself a spare. Instead,
open frame.
It's a 4-6-10.
So he's now at 133, 8-pin lead. Here's Duke in the 7th, working off just his 2nd strike of this match.
Too soft into the pocket. And that's why he left the flat 10. And again, this U.S. Open title match is going to come down to who can make the best shots of their career and knock all 10 down. The ball has to face perfectly. That ball entered way too softly. The result, a weak 10, and Norm unable to take advantage of the strike he was working on.
Duke did not bowl in 3 tournaments this season, including last week in Long Island. He said, you know, I want to get my body and everything prepared for it. What he did with that time off, he worked out on his legs. You know, he said last year I came in here feeling waist down. I was a little thin. I was a little light due to that calf injury. He bowled a lot, not really in competition, just kind of getting out there and bowling, and he rested.
And just like Barnes, has yet to strike on the right lane. The good news, though, Rob, is that Norm Duke, as your tournament leader, got the choice of starting lane. He chose to finish the match on the left lane. And what a huge strike it was for him in the 8th frame. He can now strike out 9th and 10th and shoot 215. Mike Scroggins can strike out 8th, 9th, and 10th to shoot 223.
Scroggins on the left now.
And he's locked into that right lane.
Sorry, that was the right lane. That's his 3rd strike on the right lane of his 5 overall strikes.
And remember the last strike he threw on that lane, he went a little light and kind of got that tickler. This one's high flush. That tells me he's got a little room for error. He's found a home on that right lane. Now, can he shore it up, tighten up those britches, and strike right here in the foundation frame, 9th frame?
He's up 8, can max out at 223. Duke can max at 215.
Ah, that was a good shot.
Yeah, it was. It really was. I mean, you're talking a 1/4 of an inch at location of that ball being high flush and 10 in the pit.
Leaves the 6. Continues to be flawless this week with single pin spares.
And here's the deal now, no matter what Mike Scroggins does in the 10th frame, he cannot shut out Norm Duke.
Big discrepancy in success between the left and the right. Duke is going on to the right now in the 10th. We'll close on the left.
Norm Duke strikes in the 9th, strikes first ball in the 10th, and gets 9 spare. He will shut out Mike Scroggins and win his 2nd consecutive U.S. Open and $100 grand. Gotta have it.
right through the nose.
God, that was such a good shot. Wow.
He liked it. However, right through the heart. And Norm Duke has all but just handed over the U.S. Open title to Mike Scroggins.
Open frame in the 9th. You cannot win with that.
Norm Duke has to strike out now in the 10th frame. He'll shoot 183. That would force Mike Scroggins to get any kind of mark and 1 pin to win.
Duke with 3 strikes in this title match, all 3 coming on that left lane.
Mike Scroggins is going to win sitting on the bench. He's going to win his 2nd major.
He won sitting on the bench. I think he just did the math right there. He won sitting on the bench in the semis over Chris Barnes. And he's going to do the same here at the U.S. Open. Yeah, you can smile, Mike Scroggins. You deserve it. And don't anybody say he backed into this title.
All right?
That would just be a flat-out disrespectful comment to Mike Scroggins.
Absolutely right. And so much just happened in 1 frame. Wes Malott will now be your player of the year because Norm Duke, his only shot at winning player of the year was winning this tournament. The same went for Chris Barnes. Wes Malott is now your player of the year. Norm Duke will not successfully defend his U.S. Open title. Mike Scroggins is going to win his 2nd major, $100,000.
And most importantly for him,
life out here for another 3 years.
There's the strike for Duke, and you know what he's saying right now. Where were you?
Norm's very disappointed, and he should be. He's going to question his decision-making for this title match for a long, long time.
Behind the foul line.
That's right. Stay behind the foul line, and this tournament is yours.
6 to win. Couldn't happen to a better guy.
Yeah! Yeah! Congratulations, Mike Scroggins.
Party at Scroggins tonight.
Yeah! Woo!
Yeah, get up, New Jersey. Get up for Mike Scroggins.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. What a great man, pure gentleman, so much talent, so underrated.
Good for him. I mean, just flat out good for him.
How could you not be happy for him?
Goosebumps. Goosebumps. For the 45-year-old from Amarillo.
Yes!
End on a good note, Scroggins. Yeah! Drop the ball! Mike Scroggins, your U.S. Open champion. And we'll hear from the winner when we return. The first lefty since Mike Albee in '89 to win the U.S. Open. He's enjoying it. We should have seen him during the commercial break. We take our final look at the Denny's PBA Player of the Year list, and congratulations to Wes Malott, edging out Norm Duke and Chris Barnes. His first Player of the Year honor, and Randy, well-deserved.
It really was. He had just a phenomenal season. Tapered off just a little bit towards the end, but, you know, 8 shows and 3 wins, man. You can't sneeze at that.
And Mike Scroggins winning the U.S. Open. A lot of smiles everywhere.
Couldn't be happier for him.
Next Sunday, 1 Eastern, is the PBA Women's Series Showdown presented by USBC. For Randy Peterson and our entire crew, I'm Rob Stone. So long from New Jersey. Congratulations, Mike Scroggins, your U.S. Open winner.